Hello, this is Dr. Victoria Skirbo speaking to you from the Seeds Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. And today we're going to talk about the Astrology and Kabbalah of the month of March 2018. And so I want to first say I apologize for the tardiness of this of this discussion. Things, you know how they say March starts like a lion, or starts like a lamb, and ends like a lamb, or ends like a lion. Well, this March started like a lion for me personally, and then collectively, it seems. So this is a little late, and I have a feeling really that March is going to start like a lion and end like a lion. And, hopefully we'll get a few lammy days in there, but who knows? It's as if all the rules have changed to a certain extent. So let's get started on March. Hello. So we're back. So as we do every month, we take the number of the month, which in March is a 3, and we add it to the universal year. We have to remember that 11 is a universal number, and we come up with a 14 and base number 5, so 14-5 vibration. And so in the tarot, the 14-5 card is this one. Okay, this is the Temperance card. Okay, and so there is a need to practice temperance in the month of March. And what does temperance mean? Well, temperance means a number of things. One of the things it means is not to get caught up in extremes, to temper your behavior, to temper your habits. The temperance movement was a movement of that started prohibition, because there was a sense that people were going overboard with alcohol. So if there's any area of your life where you seem to be going overboard, this is the month to stop it. It could be alcohol, it could be you're working too hard, it could be you're giving too much to others, any number of things. So anything that you find yourself working in the extreme, you need to step back from that and start to temper your actions. The other meaning of temperance is to strengthen. And it's as if when we have a blacksmith making a sword, he puts the metal in the fire, and then he plunges it into the water. Actually, he plunges it into oil, but for our discussion here, we'll say water. So it's this process of having the metal be exposed to the extremes, and in that exposure to the extremes, it is strengthened. And so as we move through this month, and we are faced with the extremes in the outer world, how do we keep our poise? How do we keep our strength? How do we, instead of having it destroy us, how does it make us stronger? You know, that old thing, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know, if you have to listen to Kelly Clarkson all month, that might be a good thing. It might be a helpful thing to do. So we have the Temperance card. Okay, so on the Tree of Life, and you'll have to excuse my camera work. I'm going to see if I step aside here, if you can see it, hopefully. Let's try this. Again, I apologize for my camera work. This is not an exact science for me. Here we go. Oh, there we go. I think you can see it. Let me just see here. I'm going to point and see. No, maybe if I do that. Okay. So here we have the Tree of Life, and the Temperance card sits here on this path right here. And this is the path that connects the Sephiroth Yesod, which is the path of the Sephiroth of the moon, and Tiphareth, the Sephiroth of the sun. And so it's the connection of the sun and the moon. And so of course we're going to look at, this month we're going to pay particular attention to the Lunation Cycle. Because these are the two planetary bodies being stimulated. This path is also associated or connected with the sign of Sagittarius, so we will look at what's in Sagittarius, is anything going on in Sagittarius during the month of March, and there is some things we'll talk about. One of the things about this path is that this is the path that connects the lower self to the higher self. It's one of the paths that actually does that. But it is in the center pillar. So it's in the path, it's in the pillar of transformation. The temperance path, this path on the Tree of Life, is considered in the initiatory path. It's where we connect with our holy guardian angel, and so we connect with our higher self. We meet our higher spiritual self on this path, and it does take a lot of, it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? It takes a lot of focus, patience and focus, because we are walking a very straight and narrow path, as if we're walking on a knife's edge. And so we need to really concentrate about how we're going to put one foot in front of the other and not get pulled off center by the extremes that we see around us. So, okay, so I'm going to pull away from that again and pull back here. And, oops, wrong direction. Ah, la, la, la. Okay, here we go. I'm going to come back into the picture. Oh, there I am. This really is terrible. So what does the temperance card mean? So I'm going to read this from the, this I get from the Tarot of the Spirit. It's a tarot deck and book written by Pamela Eakins, PhD. Amazing, amazing book. I love it because she works with the Kabbalah as well as the tarot in that book. And the cards are a little abstract but beautiful, very, very beautiful. Tarot of the Soul, if you get a chance to look. So it says temperance. It says, the trials and temptations you are currently experiencing will lead you toward integration, the middle way, the path of moderation. Your fears are conquered and your purity shines forth. And you are in a period of growth, stretching yourself spiritually. So this is a energy of really aspiration. That's a very Sagittarian archetype, aspiration. Reaching up, looking at it from getting a broader perspective of what's going on. And I know for me, it has helped me to step back from a lot of the things that are happening in the outer world, to get perspective and to take things less personally, and to look at things from a more energetic, global perspective, and yet continue to focus on that which I want to create in my life, that which I want to see in the world. You can still focus on the things you want to see, but if you're distracted by all the things that are going on, it takes your focus away. And so for those of us who have that ability to back up, have the perspective, it's beholding to us to do it even more, because when you're in something, it's very hard to see anything, and so you're embroiled in the energy. So we need to all be a little bit more objective this month. So the next thing we're going to talk about, I think the first thing I'm going to talk about is what's going on with Sagittarius. Okay, I think maybe I can do it right like this. So we're going to do some terrible camera work again. I'll just talk to you. You don't have to see what I wrote. Okay, so as far as the planet, as far as the sign Sagittarius, in March we have Mars in Sagittarius. Mars starts the month in Sagittarius. I don't exactly know the degree, but by March 17th it moves into Capricorn. And so the beginning of March we have the energy of Mars, or Mars is an activator, of course. Mars in Sagittarius is taking action on our beliefs, on our going on an adventure, climbing the mountain, so to speak, with Mars in Sagittarius. The thing is with Mars in Sagittarius that there's a lot of inspiration. There's some perspiration, but there can be some sort of petering out at the end. So you might find yourself very enthused about something, and then as time goes you start to dissipate your energy around that. But of course then Mars is going to move into Capricorn, and Capricorn has a great way of marshalling, so to speak, the Mars energy to make it much more sustained and useful. But really Mars in Sagittarius is kind of about aspiration and inspiration. And so from the beginning of March until the 17th, this path that I talked about is activated by Mars. And so because Mars can be an irritating force, we can see ourselves there's this temper tantrum that we can find us. I know I myself have found myself doing it and having to, stop myself. No, I don't always stop myself, but kind of step back from it and just, because the energy is so intense. One of the reasons why this came out so late was we had a death in the family, so I had to, right at the beginning of March. Okay, March is a month of initiation, and isn't death an initiation, right? Death is an initiation into a new life, a new level of life. And it was a very, very dear uncle of mine who I love very much, who was 90. So he lived a good life. He was a good man. I know that he's seriously going to a better place. The family is, the one that's dealing with the pain of that. And so there was initiation front and center. And then as I came back home from that, we were in the midst, the East Coast was in the midst of a giant nor'easter. And when I finally got back home to Massachusetts, we had no heat, we had no electricity, and, I was coming back with my mother, who's the older sister of my uncle. And so we had to bring her into a house with no heat. And so we had to sort of tend the fire for a couple of days, and it's been very intense. But that's the intensity I'm talking about. That's the March energy I'm talking about. And right now we're waiting for another nor'easter to come tomorrow, I believe, and then they said something about a couple more days. So who knows what's going to happen. And yet we have to keep our balance, we have to keep our poise. And we have to, be somewhat prepared for this. A lot of times, and I know this is off subject, but the weather is really a reflection of our emotional state. And here in the United States, at least, we're in a giant emotional tumult for various reasons. But we are really dealing with that, and so it's coming up in the weather as well. It's not, there is global warming for sure, but there's also our emotionality, because our emotionality and the weather are sort of in tune with each other. We are connected to Gaia very intimately, so this is what can happen. And so if you can, foster some emotional peace in yourself, maybe the weather won't be so bad. That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to get the water, make sure I have firewood, and try to foster emotional peace. We'll see how, I'll let you know how I do with that. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about are the lunations, because the path that's being activated is the path between Tiphereth, the sun, and Yesod, the moon. So I will be right back with that. Okay, so we have a blue moon again this month. We have 2 full moons, one on the 1st and one on the 31st. The full moon on the 1st was a full moon in the sign of Virgo, and with the sun in Pisces. So the sun in Pisces, the moon in Virgo. This is the axis of healing and the axis of service. So health and well-being. So these are the things that come up for us with this new moon, and awareness. New moons are always a point of awareness. Now we have to remember that this full moon is actually part of the lunation cycle that began at the last new moon, which was that it was a solar eclipse at 27, 28 degrees of Aquarius that occurred on the 15th of February, and that was the day after, in this country, the day after we had the shooting in Florida. And there has been a upsurge of revolutionary energy. Of course, Aquarius is revolutionary, right? And if you use the Sibley chart for the United States, the moon for the United States, the Sibley chart moon, I should say, is at 27 degrees of Aquarius. So the moon was activated, and when the moon gets activated in a mundane chart, the moon is symbolic of the people, and so the people are rising up. And we also have, we just had a 9-day teacher strike in West Virginia, because they're like paid so poorly, and they actually got what they wanted. They got a 5% raise, not just for them, but for all the other state workers, and they got to keep their insurance. They were going to do something with the insurance. So people are fighting for their rights, and we'll see a lot of that revolutionary energy. People are fed up. with the status quo. People are fed up with the people in charge, and we're going to see that energy. And this full moon on the 1st is really about becoming aware of what needs to be healed. What needs to be healed? Where's the wound? And then what practical things can we do? Practicing discernment and practical problem solving, instead of it being all this idealistic mumbo jumbo that doesn't get It doesn't get anybody anywhere. So how are we going to fix what's broken? So we have an awareness right at the beginning of the month. And then in the middle of the month, on the 17th, that's the day that Mars moves out of Sagittarius and into Capricorn, we have a new moon in the sign of Pisces, and it's at 27 degrees of Pisces. Now, what's interesting about this new moon, and I'm going to pull this new moon up. Okay, this is for me, really. This is for me to have the notes. So this occurs at 27 degrees of Pisces. The Sabian symbol for 27 degrees of Pisces, the harvest moon, illumines a clear autumn sky. The light of fulfillment that blesses work well done. Time has come to reap what we have sown and nurtured or haven't nurtured. Okay? And what's especially poignant about this new moon is that it is conjunct Chiron. Chiron is at, I believe, 26 degrees or 27 maybe of Pisces. And Chiron in Pisces is the wound of abandonment by God, the sense of utter abandonedness and being left. And I don't think there's any of us who don't have felt that very deep within us. And so it's about, new moons are about starting something new, and here's an opportunity to see the wound and work towards healing the wound. And of course, one of the challenges is not to re-wound ourselves. The archetype or the mental construct of the idea of the need for a victim and the need for a victimizer, like you can't have one without the other, right? So that's something we need to look at. And even though the victims get all the sympathy, we need to look at the whole structure of that, because a victimizer generally starts as a victim. You get to feel that, and even if we feel victimized in our own life, I'm sure there have been times when we have been the victim, the victimizer in situations. Maybe not, shooting people up, but certainly an unkind word or gossip or whatever. I mean, there are levels, and so really it's about letting all of that go and just loving each other. Whether you're a victim or you're a victimizer, it's really about coming together and loving and healing the wounds. And maybe a victim survives, but we need to also look into the healing journey of the victimizer as well. I don't know how popular that will be, but I'm saying it anyway. Okay, so we have that. Let me just make sure and there's a trine to Jupiter of this new moon. Of course, Jupiter is in Scorpio, and so trines bring flow, right? And so there's flow to that shadow side, all right, and so we can have access to the deep emotional underpinnings and the need and the deep feelings that we have. And of course, March is one of those deep feeling months. We have the sun is in Pisces most of the month, so, and then it of course moves into Aries on the equinox. So there is a lot of sensitivity. There is a lot of sensitivity at this time. So, all right, let me go to the last moon, which is the full moon on the 31st. Okay, now this is a very interesting full moon. Of course, we have the moon in Libra, and the sun at this time is in Aries, and so it's an awareness around the axis of relationship, the axis of identity. I'm going to pull you over this way. Okay, so we have the axis of identity, the axis of relationship. So we become aware of how we interact with each other. And this particular full moon has Saturn squaring the new moon, the full moon axis, meaning that Saturn is about 90 degrees from the sun and 90 degrees from the moon. And what Saturn brings, Saturn in Capricorn, requires us to take responsibility, to grow up, to mature. This is really about letting go of the blame game and taking responsibility for your part. And in taking responsibility for your part and being responsible for yourself, you can pull yourself out of situations that are hurting you or that are hurting somebody else, and really sort of buck up, so to speak, and there's a sense of taking responsibility and then doing what you can do to make your life work better. And in making your life work better, you automatically make the lives of the people around you work better. Libra can be codependent and can give their power away in relationships, and Aries can be overbearing. So we have to find balance in that. We have to find the balance to be able to relate and yet be able to maintain our individuality in a very mature way. And so that's what that full moon at the end of the month is really asking us to do. So there are a couple of other things that are going on this month that I just want to briefly mention. Mars in Sagittarius. Mars is in Sagittarius till the 17th. But on the, hold on a second, I think it's the 14th. One more, sorry about this. I believe it's the, oh, maybe it's not the 14th, maybe it's the 12th. Sorry. Oh, okay, it's the 11th. I was close. So on March 11th, we have Mars making a trine to Uranus. Mars is at 27 of Sagittarius. Uranus is at 27 of Aries, and this is a waning trine, a waning trine, meaning it's a disseminating trine, and it's about disseminating your knowledge and putting things out there, learning from each other. But Mars is a very energetic energy. It's the most energetic, right? And Uranus can be revolutionary or it can be very explosive. So when you have a trine, there isn't a lot of things getting in the way of the expression of that energy or that explosiveness or that revolutionary time. So even though trines are considered positive, generally positive, there's such an ease of energy that things can happen. And in fact, I've noticed a couple of the not so nice things that have happened with prominent trines in the sky, because there's nothing in the way. There's no resistance to the energy. And so we have to be very circumspect at that time, the 11th of March. And then Mars at 27 degrees of Sagittarius is connected to the galactic center, our galactic inheritance, our starseed inheritance. So maybe this is a time to be guided by the stars instead of by your own personal agenda, okay? So the other thing is that Jupiter is turning retrograde. It happens on the 8th, and Jupiter has been in Scorpio and been moving fast and furious and forward since October, and now we have an opportunity to sort of slow down a little bit and sort of go over some of the things that we have seen come out as Jupiter has been in Scorpio, and we're looking at the Me Too movement, we're looking at the Time's Up movement, Never Again. I mean, all of this stuff. Scorpio is the archetype of death and rebirth, and so there's been quite a bit of death. There's been death of ways of being. There's been death of staying in the shadows and finally finding your voice, right? That's has come up, and there's been death of people, and so this death and rebirth, it's all an initiatory process, but it behooves us to learn the lesson in the challenge, and continue to move forward and continue to strive, and always move towards love. We also have the spring equinox in the in the northern hemisphere, and the vernal equinox in the southern hemisphere. And so we have a balance between the light and the dark on that day, and that's when the sun moves into Aries. And let me just look at that for a second, because I know okay. So on the day that the sun moves into Aries, it squares Mars in Sagittarius. And this is also a time that can be very tumultuous. There's a lot of stress with the square. There's a need for action with the square. And this is a crisis in action as the sun interacts with Mars. And so we're going to feel the need to take an action. And then shortly thereafter, we are on the 24th in the United States, we're having the March on Washington with all the kids, Never Again, the Never Again movement. So that day is actually a first quarter crisis in action moon, and a a square. Okay, the exact square between the sun and Mars on the equinox. It's not quite exact, but on the 24th it's exact. So we'll see what happens. There is definitely a big change, and we need to, again, not get caught up in extremes. We need to walk the straight and narrow and allow our experiences to strengthen us and not take us down. As we move confidently into the future, maybe, we'll keep walking. How confident we are, I guess, will depend, but we can do this. We can make a difference. It's up to us. Saturn's in Capricorn now. We have to start growing up, putting our big girl and big boy pants on, and maturing. Have yourself a great month. If you enjoyed this video, press the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I hope this will be helpful for you. And I'll see you again in June. Have a great month. Bye.